I'm Lysowski of the Buffalo News here with Mike Harrington. We're in Las Vegas, and it's a tad warmer than we're accustomed to. Pardon me while I squint my eyes to block from this sunshine, but we found a shady spot, and we've already had quite the busy day, haven't we?
We have, but I'm stuck looking at the pool here at the Wynn Resort. We're not in the pool, but it's an unbelievable setting here. The Sabres already made a trade. They traded number 11 like we thought they would in the first round, but they didn't get a player yet. Now they have number 14. They also have an extra pick in the second round. Let's see what that means for the first round Friday, having that first round pick, and maybe more importantly, having 2 in the second round.
And it gives them options, right? They could trade 14 overall. Like Kevyn-Adams said, that's not completely off the table if the right deal comes about. They could trade multiple seconds for an NHL player. They could trade 14 and use the 2 seconds to move up into the first round. Remember, this scouting staff and Kevyn-Adams, they've been aggressive at the draft the last couple of years. They tried to move up for Yuri Kulich and Anton Wahlberg, although they ended up getting both, but a little later than they expected.
But having said all that, they cannot possibly use pick 14 and 42 and 43. They can't possibly do it. It's not happening. There's going to be other moves here. They're going to get an NHL player at some point for a combination of whatever prospects and draft picks it's going to take to acquire one.
And the big wild card here, which I think everybody's been talking about for about the last 8 or 9 days, is Jeff Skinner.
Wow.
The buyout window for the NHL opened on Thursday. It runs through Saturday, so there's no rush. I think that a lot of fans were waiting for that news to come out on Thursday, but if you're Kevyn-Adams, why would you just go ahead and do that without knowing that you're going to have a replacement on your roster?
Right, and the other thing is you can see continuing about trade options for salary retention. The buyout window opened Thursday. It doesn't close Thursday. It doesn't close until Sunday. So this may stretch the entire weekend to see what they're going to do with Jeff Skinner. Do I think they should buy him out? Yes, probably. I don't know there's going to be a market for him at that salary, even with retention. And then today, Kevyn-Adams told us that Jeff Skinner and his camp had zero interest in waiving his no-trade clause. And why would he? That's the leverage he earned. Why should he take away all his leverage and potentially get sent to a team, San Jose, that isn't very good?
Chicago even?
Chicago, right. So I think now what you're going to have to see, the Sabres are going to have to buy Jeff Skinner out. But I do think it's predicated on the potential for making a deal elsewhere, whether it's Martin Necas from Carolina or not. Maybe the Sabres don't rush into the Jeff Skinner buyout until, like you said, they have that NHL replacement.
It sure seemed like, based on hearing Kevyn-Adams speak, is that their focus is on adding a top 6 forward.
Yes.
Right? I think a lot of the expectation was going into unrestricted free agency and trade season, we can call it, is a center. They lost Casey Mittelstadt, but Kevyn-Adams even said today there's not a whole lot of centers available there.
And really, are you going to trade the number 11 or now the number 14 pick for some of the third-line centers on the market? You're certainly not going to do that.
You're not. And we know they're not going to be committing $6 million a year to a third-line center. Few teams do. It really handcuffs your ability to build your team. So the fact of the matter is they have a lot of assets. They have prospects. They have more draft picks now. And now we have to wait and see if they can make the type of deal that makes this roster better.
And here's something Kevyn-Adams said that really interested me. It was really the first time I've heard him say this today. He kind of indicated Jeff Skinner may not have a role here anymore. At that salary, that he probably doesn't fit in the top 6 anymore on this club. And certainly you're not going to have a $9 million player on the third line. But that was kind of an admission from Adams that Jeff Skinner may be on the downside of his career, and maybe they're reading into the second half of this season as not being a one-off, but maybe where Jeff Skinner is headed.
And they got a good look at Jeff Skinner in a third-line role the last month or so of the season. He played a lot next to Peyton Krebs and Jordan Greenway. If you look at the numbers, Mike, it was ugly.
It was not a good look.
And with fewer minutes, fewer opportunities, playing with different types of players, it's a situation he hasn't thrived in previously in his career. We know Lindy Ruff's expectations for players is going to be far different than those of Don Granato. It may be pretty much similar to Ralph Kruger, who was not going to tolerate Jeff Skinner playing out of structure. And so much of what makes Jeff Skinner an effective player is playing out of structure, which isn't going to fly given just where this team is at, the other players they have on this roster. But Mike, if they walk away with one of the best 5-on-5 goal scorers over the last 14 or 15 years in the NHL, they have to get somebody else.
They have to get somebody else. And it was an immediate thought on my part when they hired Lindy Ruff that Jeff Skinner's not a Lindy Ruff player. Now, Skinner, like you said, has tremendous 5-on-5 stats. We've seen some of the things he's done for this club since 2018. But the bottom line here, he's the only player in NHL history to play over 1,000 games in his career and never make the playoffs. I'm sorry, that's not all on the teams he's been on. Some of that, just a lot of that, has to be on Jeff Skinner. It's probably time to move on.
And even if you go ahead and you look at the roster and building a lineup, even yourself, just for fun, you start the right names down. And to be honest with you, Mike, when I was doing, I wondered, where am I going to put Jeff Skinner?
He's not in the top
you
six.
You have J.J. Paterka, Jack Quinn. If they wanted to add another top six forward, whether it be Martin Necas or, hey, if they can sign Patrick Kane, if he would agree to a one-year deal, someone like that's not going to be on your third line. It would have to be Jeff Skinner in that case. And you know what? This is just beginning. I know that this is a big move, and people think that everything's going to happen within an hour or two, but this is a long 10 days, really. Mike, we have the first round of the draft Friday night at the Sphere, which, of course, we are both going to be at. Rounds 2 through 7 on Saturday, which is very odd because we're going to have to be back at the Sphere.
Right and early, folks. 8:30 a.m. Pacific time on Saturday. 11:30 for you guys in the East. 8:30 a.m. for us.
Up and early on Saturday, then back to Buffalo for unrestricted free agency. The market opens on Monday, and Sabres development camp Monday through Thursday. So maybe by next Thursday, we know what this team's going to look like next season. It sounds like, from what Kevyn-Adams said, that is his plan. That's his goal. But we
remember the lesson of 2018. They acquired Jeff Skinner in August. You could be doing things all summer. You never know how it's going to roll here.
Matthew Tkachuk wasn't traded until I think it was late July, correct?
Yeah,
so it could keep rolling. I'm Lance Lysowski of the Buffalo News. He's Mike Harrington. We will be checking back with you on Friday. Thanks again.